Yes.
Yes.
If they didn't raise their hand, and we're over here on the back row, we'll bring you one. So we have one over here, one in front of you. So again, my name is Mary Jo Wedding. I am State Director with the Convention States Action Project here in Kentucky. We do have teams across the nation. We have a team in all 50 states. We are all volunteers. So we have a little over 200 plus volunteers in Kentucky. And Rick is a district captain. Denise is a legislative liaison for the Convention States. The idea, and why I've given you a constitution, one, I hope you all read it, but two, in our constitution is Article 5. Right? Article 5 says that there's only two ways to amend the Constitution. First way is through Congress. All 27 amendments have gone through Congress the whole time, every time. However, it didn't get to Congress initially. States started talking about a convention, and then Congress got a little nervous and put forth those amendments. So the Convention of States is a project that throughout the nation is trying to have our state legislative bodies to call convention. Because as I said, there's two methods in Article 5. The second method is if 2/3, which equals 34 states, pass the same resolution, Congress must call a convention, and that convention is to propose amendments to the Constitution. So again, the Convention of States is trying to get 34 states to pass that. Now, once a convention is called, then all the states will send their commissioners or delegates, whatever you would like to call them, to that convention. Each state can send as many delegates as they want to send. And when it comes down to the communication and the debate and all of that, one vote, one state. So you can send as many delegates as you want, but each individual state only gets to vote once. Now, what are we trying to bring to the table? What is our resolution in our conversation? One, we want to have an amendment to discuss reduction of the scope and jurisdiction of the federal government, meaning strengthening our 10th Amendment and reducing the federal grip that they have in everything we do in our lives. The other is to impose fiscal restraints. Fiscal restraints could be a balanced budget, cap on how much income tax they can charge us. So those amendments would fall under the fiscal restraint. The third topic of conversation that is in our resolution is term limits. Term limits for elected officials and or unelected officials. Unelected officials could be bureaucrats, appointments, Supreme Court. Those are the unelected officials. So that discussion at the convention can discuss term limits as well as on Congress. Now, in this room, how many people, honestly, how many people are in favor of term limits for federally elected officials? Senators. Wow, that's a big group. So, I was just getting ready to say, 75% of the country wants term limits for our elected officials. Now, unelected officials, how many people would like a 20 or 25-year term on the Supreme Court? Do you have that? See, it's not as much, right? How about bureaucrats? Would you like to term them out?
Fauci.
Dr. Fauci.
Yeah, Dr. Fauci.
Both hands.
So, as I said, is trying to get these resolutions passed in the state.
They're the worst.
In Kentucky currently. Nationwide, we have 15 states that have passed it already. We started in 2014. 15 states have passed it. 6 states are still in legislative discussions now because their session is different than ours. We've submitted our resolution in the Kentucky legislative body every year since 2014. We've had one sponsor in the Senate or one sponsor in the House. This year is a little different. This year we have 15 sponsors posted right now in the House, and we have 8 sponsors in the Senate. Currently, right now, our House resolution is getting ready to be pre-filed, so it will be pre-filed soon, I would say before November 15th. Our primary sponsor is Representative Matt Lockett, which is in Jessica County. Co-primary is Jason Petrie, and he's down in the western part of the state, western Kentucky. In the Senate, our primary sponsor is Robin Mills, and he's western part of the state as well. So I'm trying to most often you get questions, right? So that's kind of what I'm trying to get through the process. So I did, again, like I said, give you the Constitution. I've given you this also. Now, I did not bring hard copy petitions. Petitions are a way to tell your legislator, and who's your senator here? I forgot.
Karen Bird.
Okay, and she's not there. Oh no, she's still in. Okay. So for those of you who decide to sign petitions, I also put a little card in there. You can get it online and sign the petition. There's the QR codes if everybody likes to use those. I'm not a big fan of them, technology and all that, but you can sign a petition. You can decide to volunteer like quite a few of us do, and you can just go to the website and read more information about it. But with that said, a couple of groups or individuals are opposed to the Convention of States. So on its surface, can I get a show of hands that's nervous about calling a convention to propose amendments to the Constitution? We got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, quite a few. So what is your opposition to that? So this is the best way to have that conversation, right?
I'll start out. I'm real concerned about, you open up the Constitution or whatever, and you've got, what's the limit or whatever? Could they do away with the Second Amendment? Could they put an abortion, allow abortions in the Constitution or whatever? I think, when you go and open up the Constitution, there's more harm, I think, could be done than not. That's my concern.
Okay, one of your statements here is you have a solution as big as the problem.
Mm-hmm.
That'll make you think to begin with, all right?
Yes.
Problem is, we're broken down here. We the people, seriously, don't vote the people that we send to Washington. We don't know how they vote. If you listen to them and you understand what they say, the end result means you won't send those people to Washington. Okay? So it's down here. I always tell people it's my problem. I'm the elected, all right? Okay, think about it. You're going to impose physical restraints on the federal government. They're already there, folks. It's called the Constitution.
You're right.
Here's the problem with that. Everybody in this room votes for 3 U.S. people. We are blessed in this county with having 2 that are constitutionals. One of them not. That leaves 5 more out in the state. U.S. representatives, okay? How do they vote? I know how they vote. I get their voter record on 10 big issues every year, twice a year. I know how they vote. They tell me anything they want to tell me. You don't limit the power and the jurisdiction of the federal government. They already said they got a solution over here. What is the solution?
To propose amendments to reduce the
Yes, ma'am. The thing about it is, when you do your research, you find out that there's no time limit on doing this, first of all. Second of all, it says here, there's no limit as to what. Now listen, folks. This was done once before in history.
It's never been done. Article 5 has never been done.
Okay, Article 5, because it didn't have it then.
No.
When was that? 200 and some odd years ago.
1787, our Constitutional Convention, remember those words. A
They did away
Constitutional
with
Convention
it
was
all
called.
and created the federal government, a constitutional republic.
Yes.
Now, if we elect people and put them up there that vote constitution,
the floor.
we won't have a problem. But here's the solution to this that's safe in this state, okay? This is a serious problem, folks. It's scary. It's very scary. You know what they call the solution in Kentucky? Nullification. They can do whatever they want to, they think, to the state of Kentucky. But, oh, wait a minute. We have to elect state representatives that will vote for nullification of that ridiculous thing that Washington does.
okay? And so, I'm gonna address those, but I want everybody else to talk about theirs, so.
Okay,
hold that thought.
with term limits, think about this, term limits. We've got two beautiful constitutions in this country, and you're gonna limit their term of service when they're voting for the Constitution. That is not the answer to the problem.
Okay.
The problem is, we the people of Kentucky, that's you and I, folks, we don't enforce the nullification thing, which does away with all that ridiculous stuff.
So
And
we're
you're gonna
get back to
restrict the
nullification
federal government.
in a
They
second.
have restrictions if there's called the Constitution of the United States of America, and there's 80% of the time they don't follow it.
So, okay, we're gonna address a lot of those that you just said.
Here's my issue with this.
Yes.
The Constitution is what founded our country.
Mhm.
The more we keep straying away from the Constitution, and we're trying to make an amendment on this, and we're nitpicking, we're getting so far away from the founding document that was supposed to be the United States.
Yeah.
We're constantly getting further and further away, and there's already been a prime example of our highly intelligent president, who, 81 million votes came in, that the land has now disregarded the Supreme Court, and there is no repercussion. So what's to say they're doing the same thing to this? Well, no one's gonna do anything about it, so what are you gonna do about it? And then you're gonna put that in, and we're still trying, but they're still gonna ignore the Constitution, which they're already trying to override to begin with, and they're doing it with no repercussion. So we're all in this screw.
To this gentleman's point, and a little bit to your point, big part of the problem is the way the current elected, I can never pronounce this, Senate, the legislative branch approaches lawmaking is, to quote Dianne Feinstein, it's not our job to determine if it's constitutional. That's the Supreme Court's job. But by the time it gets to the Supreme Court, it's already law, people have already suffered, things have already gotten broken, and the Supreme Court anymore is an activist Supreme Court. So
I agree.
the
I
big
agree with that.
concern is over policy, not law. So that's a concern, but I personally don't have a problem with Article 5, because I understand kind of what you're gonna say, but personally I don't have a problem, but I get that.
Anybody else on this room have a problem with Article 5 in the convention states? Let me back up a little bit, okay. So I gave you the Constitution, right?
Yes.
This is the Constitution that we are under, you think? You know what this is? It's 10 pounds of the U.S. Constitution, and if you don't believe me, it says, the Constitution of the United States. And now this is the 2002 version. This is not the 2020 or 21 version. So if we believe we live under this Constitution, we are all standing statement. Congress and the Supreme Court uses this Constitution, Supreme Court for interpretations, the Senate to write laws, Congress to write laws. So when Feinstein says she doesn't know the Constitution, they have this, and I had this purchased from the U.S. Printing Office, and I just received it 3 weeks ago.
But what's in that one? Because it's, there's one thing to hold them both up, but it's that dissent from different
These
cases
are
that
all,
have gone to the Supreme Court.
these are all the Supreme Court decisions that have changed the interpretation of this little book.
Well, wouldn't that be important for the legislators to know the Supreme Court?
It absolutely is. But all the Supreme Court rulings. Now, we all know the Supreme Court was supposed to be the least chamber among our three branches. Would everybody agree with that? The Supreme Court was supposed to have almost no authority. The legislative body was supposed to be the strongest of the three. We don't have three equal branches, we never have. Supreme Court is the least. Now, we as citizens have given the Supreme Court, and we've done it. We can't pass the buck and say somebody else had done it already. We've done it. For decades, centuries, we have sat back and done absolutely nothing, assuming that everybody we elect is going to do the right thing. At what point do we say, wait a minute, you're not doing the right thing? You're not doing the right thing. But there's no stopping spending, no stopping spending. You have to stop the bleed. Legislation is not allowed to do that, and why do I know that? The Supreme Court has said, legislators cannot put a balanced budget in the government system. It requires, guess what, an amendment. Term limits for Supreme Court, hold on just a second. Supreme Court has to have an amendment. Term limits for Congress, if you choose to do that, I myself personally, I am not in favor of term limits for elected officials, but that's just my personal opinion. I'm one of a lot of people, right? But 75% of the people want term limits.
When you start getting into all this, why, and 34 states, all this, and, you know, it seems like what you're proposing would just be added to that book, the bigger one.
Well,
Why didn't focus, you know, it seems like if you want to change all the things that you're changing, it seems like you want a secession more than you want an amendment to be changed.
No. The only thing under Article 5 we can do is propose amendments, that's it.
Right.
How many in this room would want Congress on a budget? They can't exceed the spending of of their GPA or whatever the limits are. Is there anybody in this room that wants the budget, wants to stop the federal government from spending money they don't have?
Oh, absolutely.
Everybody.
But adding,
So what's the issue? How do you stop Congress from, how do you get them to stop spending? More importantly, how do you get them to stop spending on things they shouldn't be spending money on? The enumerated powers. I'm sorry, what?
I said if the Constitution was gonna do it, it would have done it a long time ago.
The Constitution, but that's Article 5. Article 5 was given to us to make changes to the Constitution when our federal system became tyrannical, when our federal government became too large or out of control. That's what Article 5 is there for.
I have a question about the balanced budget.
Yeah.
So, and I understand that in some cases, particularly when Mike Pence was governor of Indiana, the only amendment he would support was a balanced budget, amendment. But why would that not be just an act, a law, where
Because
Congress,
the Supreme Court said it isn't.
they say that Congress may not pass or shall
No.
not pass
So.
a
there's
balanced
another
budget
organization-
act?
Right, there's another organization that tried to bring Article 5 to fruition, which was the balanced budget amendment. Their purpose is to have 27 states pass. They were 32 states passed, and Congress was really nervous.
No, I'm
So
talking
Congress
about a
put
law.
forth the
just not an act.
legislation, Congress put forth the legislation to put their own version of the balanced budget in. It passed both the House and the Senate, but the Supreme Court shot it down and said it was unconstitutional. Because you can't put the federal Congress, the budget, the dollars spent, the tax money, what they spend the money on, you can't put that in as legislation. In order to do that, since it's not in the Constitution, it does require an amendment to the Constitution.
Got it.
So they scrapped it.
Okay,
But it did pass in Congress.
yeah, okay, I got it.
So there are some things you can't change in the federal system. You can take everybody out of Congress right now, and you can replace them. But do you think that'll fix the problem? No. The system is out of balance. And until we can scrap this, until we can scrap all of this Supreme Court rulings, close the loopholes, fix the Commerce Clause. The Commerce Clause has allowed the federal government to invade every aspect of our lives. And you might be happy with that. I'm not. And it gets worse every single day. So you either make the change, come up with a better solution, or do nothing, which is what we've been doing for 2 decades. Well, actually, we've done it for a century. More than a century, 200 plus years. We've never brought an Article 5,
Okay,
ever.
so we're looking at the best case scenario. I'd like to ask, what is the worst case scenario?
Okay,
This goes through, what's the worst thing that can happen?
worst case scenario, okay. Convention stays in call. They send their commissioners to the convention. We have the resolution which specifies the subject matters, the topics of conversation. That's the topics that they can discuss. Now, let's say they decide, some crazy person decides they want to get rid of the Second Amendment. Somebody just talked about that. Opening the Constitution, getting rid of the Second Amendment. So, first off, I can't imagine any state sitting by, not any, I shouldn't say that, but I can't imagine 26 voting yes, let's get rid of the Second Amendment. But hypothetically, let's say they're all drinking the same Kool-Aid, and 26 states vote to get rid of the Second Amendment. What happens? Even though, one, it's not in the resolution, right? None of our civil liberties are in any of that. If you notice, on, which is in that card, everything that's on that card is a reduction of the federal power, not an increase in federal power. So, Second Amendment, somebody's proposed that, and everybody's drinking the same Kool-Aid. 26 states passed that particular amendment. We're going to get rid of the Second Amendment. It comes out of convention and goes to Congress. Now, depending on who controls Congress at the time, currently right now, if it went to Congress today, oh, they jump on that. And they send it to the states. That's what they have to do. They have to send it to the states for ratification. Congress can't touch it beyond that. It has to go to the states for ratification.
So,
Now, tell me 13 states that are going to say no to get rid of the Second Amendment. It takes 38 states, by the way, to ratify an amendment. 38, 3/4 of the states have to ratify. Tell me 13 states that are going to say no, because it only takes 13 states to kill it. Kentucky, Indiana, West Virginia, Alabama, Texas, Florida, all of the Midwest, South Dakota, North Dakota, the Carolinas, Georgia. I could probably name 30 states that would say, no way, we're not voting for that, but it only takes 13. It only takes 13 states to say, no. So any amendment that comes out of a convention, and it's a proposing convention, by the way, we are not opening this Constitution up, or more likely, we're not opening this Constitution up. A convention is a proposing convention, no more. They have no authority to make any changes to the Constitution. All they can do is make a suggestion and send it on to Congress, in which they must then send it to the states for ratification.
Each state has one vote.
In the convention, every state has one vote.
Who determines who represents the citizens?
The state legislators. The state legislators in every state are the only one, the only form of government, yeah, I know. Yeah. So, but the state legislators are the only governmental body that has any authority to change the Constitution. Congress can't change the Constitution. Only state legislators has that power. The governor can't change it. Only the state legislators.
The safest way to do that, to shut down a problem, is
Nullification, and the Supreme Court has shot it down because even though nullification is included in the Declaration of Independence, it is not included in the Constitution.
Then you know
So the Supreme Court shuts it
you
down.
know what's gonna happen, then you'll have to do away with that Constitution. That's the only way to work, right?
No, no, we could put an amendment, not that I want one, but we could put an amendment in there and put nullification in there. Or we could put forth an amendment that says any Supreme Court ruling, any ruling that comes out of the Supreme Court has to go back to the legislation and be proposed as an amendment if it's going to be enacted. So, I mean, it's not any different than, we've had it for 200 plus years. Only 27 amendments have changed it. At some point, you have to put a new roof on your house. At some point, you gotta change gutters or paint the shutters or
That's
whatever.
what I'm afraid of.
We have not done any maintenance to our Constitution, and we've sat there decades after decades after decades, and I'm gonna say, because I usually don't, because we're nonpartisan, but the left pushes their whole agenda this far. And they're like, oh, sorry, okay, I'll settle for this. Next time, I'm gonna push it this far, now where are we going? A little bit further. We've sat back, as conservatives, I'm conservative We've sat back on our backsides and allowed it to happen without pushing back and standing up.
We've got 6 U.S. representatives in the federal government from Kentucky.
Yep.
5 of them are Republicans. And what's their voter record? 50% constitutional, and they're Republicans.
I agree.
We
I'm not,
have 1 Republican out here in the 4th district, it's 100% constitutional year after year, ever since it's been Thomas Massey. And we have 1 U.S. senator out of the 2, Rand Paul. It's a constitution. So what we have to do, it boils the
I'm not
same.
disagreeing with you.
Okay.
We have to elect constitutionally conservative individuals into office. There's no question. This isn't a fix-all. This isn't this is gonna change the world. This is our first step to making the changes. It's our first step to standing up, joining together and saying, you know what, enough is enough.
It's not gonna change the world, we're gonna join the world when you do this, you put
No,
that
no,
power
we're
in
not.
other people's
Actually,
hands.
I disagree. I've been
Actually-
working this for a long time.
We're gonna
I
join.
disagree.
I'm gonna say, I'm seeing where you're coming from. Because if you look at if we all step back for a second and look at the history of the Democrat Party, first off, Republicans, we suck at getting our message out. I'm gonna call that outright. We suck at getting our message out. If you just look at the turnout here, how many Republicans do we have in our county? And look at the turnout here. This
actually a
we
good
should
turnout.
be a packed room. Realistically, we should be a packed room, and because that's what they do. The Democrats, what they do is that's all they do. They run their damn mouth, run, and they get people to do exactly what you're wanting to do, except in their favor, and we're failing to play their game on our end. So where this is I understand what you're saying, and it's combating against them. I think that the issue here is that we want to abide by the Constitution. They have been pissing on our Constitution and saying, well, we're going to gear to what we want, and we're going to paint this pretty picture when in fact the devil's down 450 pages down in the details, and you find out, oh, we need to shove this and pass it through. You better sign it now. You better sign it now. When we got legislations that are paid by corporations, you've got Project Veritas coming out with these secret videos showing what they're saying behind closed doors, and yet they're already against the public. You've got rhino Republicans in office that are not listening to us. So with all that, and I know I just dropped a nuclear bomb on this, but how do you get that to go support us with the messaging against the rhino Republicans, against the swamp, against mainstream media, who will do everything to lie and turn that against everyone to make it sound like that is the devil in the hands, but yet there's...
Well, half the room in here is not in support. So the fear mongering has already helped on our conservative individuals. And this is not, oh, let's just, kumbaya moment, let's
Right.
just pass the convention and we're gonna be all together and everything's gonna be great. This is one step to the battle, right?
Right.
We're losing the battle as a conservative. If you don't know it, you're not paying attention.
Right,
Because we don't know how to fight.
yes.
But the one thing that we do have is the love of our republic and the love of our constitution. And say what? Yes. So when are we gonna say, okay, I don't care what you say. You can call me a bigot, you can call me a racist, you can call me anything you wanna call me. At one point in time, are the conservatives in this country, more importantly, the conservatives in this state, gonna stand up and say, this is our Constitution, and this is what I'm gonna stand up for. But if we don't stand up together, we're just gonna continue to do the same thing, and I'm gonna die of old age, and some of us are gonna die of old age, and our children and their children are indentured servants to the federal government. If you don't believe that's gonna happen, you're not paying attention yet.
But I just want to say that I don't think we're losing. I think that's important to say. I do not believe that we're losing. We are in a regime that is telling us that we're losing, and I think it's important for everyone here to know that we are not losing. This space has been I'm a mother of 4 toddlers who finally had to move and do something. Everybody needs to be working. Work on your thing. Everybody needs to be doing it, but that's the problem. It's not changing the Constitution. It's being here, it's doing precinct, it's doing the tiny little jobs. That's what the Democrats do. I mean, they'll get graduate, they get everyone at the tiniest spots. It's not the big money, it's not the big spots. Those are always gonna be corrupt. There's the devil, period. Someone's always gonna sell it out. It's coming up from the bottom and getting involved in school boards and getting all the young people here to know even what's in that. To even know what's in the
You're
little
right,
Constitution.
you're right. I'm out
Little
every night at different
Constitution.
libraries, you're right. And I give out one of these to every single person I talk to educate them. Half of our volunteers are constitutional coaches. We know what's in the Constitution, we support the Constitution and the Republic. But at some point in time, you have to close the loopholes so that when those constitutionally loving elected officials can't.
But they're not upholding the Constitution now. We're in a
They
communist
are
takeover of our country.
upholding-
We're currently living
They're
under
upholding
They're
the-
upholding
that
the
was elected by
Constitution.
China. Do you think they're gonna care about what you're gonna put in there?
They're
They're gonna
upholding
laugh
this
at you.
Constitution.
No, they're not.
No, they're not.
Yes, they
No,
are.
they're not.
Okay, hold on, because on
They're
that,
not even observing HIPAA law.
if that was the case, I'm gonna say, like I said in the beginning, they had already ruled, the Supreme Court, since you did say that we've allowed the Supreme Court to take over, the Supreme Court had made a ruling that was against Biden, and Biden basically said, yeah, piss off, I'm gonna do it anyways.
Sure.
And then nothing ever happened, so there was no
Because
recourse.
there is nothing in the Constitution that says what will happen.
Right, but that's
Who's gonna
also,
hold them accountable?
that's also
I agree.
validating what she said.
I agree. So who's gonna hold them accountable?
That's the problem,
No,
because,
that's not the problem. I want the answer.
well,
Article
right.
5 is not gonna hold them accountable.
If you don't like an Article 5, and you don't wanna put how you keep them at bay in the Constitution, what's the solution?
So,
We have everybody in jail
Well-
right now for
Here's another way
no
to
charges.
think. Wait a minute.
Let's talk about.
Here's another way to think about it. And Article 5 is simply a convention. Based on the Article 5 gives you permission at the state level, you don't have to do Congress. So, but what you do in that Article 5 is the difference. So if you want to remake the world in your Article 5, that could be a bridge too far. But when we think about where we are now, in the 21st century, we're in a very top-down, federal government runs the show kind of a world. It's probably started back with Woodrow Wilson when they took away how we elect senators, right? Fix that, that's one fix you could do. And on the term limits, I'm ambivalent because when you look at Mitch McConnell, 27 years, $27 million later, he's still in office. But we elected him over and over and over, and nobody ever came up against him. So we have ourselves to blame, not the Constitution. So I'm not too sure about term limits being the solution. But
Well, and I'm
how do
okay
we,
with term limits. I
how
don't
do we
think- I think
turn
we
it
elect
upside down so that we have federalism and we know we have federalism? To your
It
point,
has to
we
start
know what
somewhere.
we can do.
Right.
That's
Our
one
state
thing in Article
legislators
5
currently
I would
don't know.
support wholeheartedly is let's fix how we elect our senators. Let's have the state legislatures do it, and then if we want to get up on the ramparts, we do it at the state legislature. I called the state legislature to give them, give them my opinion, my representative and my senator, and the person said, wow, you actually know who your representative is. Most
Yeah.
people don't, hello?
No, they don't, but that kind of goes back, and you said you have children, I mean, that goes back to when they took all of the civics out of our education
Yes.
system.
Right.
Yeah.
But they didn't do it, we allowed it, and that's my point.
Yeah.
But a lot
We
of the-
allowed it.
and a lot of the schools too,
Constitution, that's parents.
a lot of the schools too, I'm not even joking, and I've talked to multiple people in the county who want to get into the schools, just even in Oldham County, who again, when I moved here, when our family moved here in 2018, we did our research and due diligence, and Oldham County is one of the top 3 at that time. Now the school districts suck, and with the crap that's going on inside them, that the material that I'm seeing firsthand, they are specifically not allowing even people from the county who want to come in and educate the kids on who your representatives are, who your districts are, how to even get a driver's license. They are pushing back to such an extent that are not allowing even the representation of our county inside the schools to inform the kids what's going on. So it's already being hindered from the lowest bottom. So how do we even fight
You have
that?
to address that.
You run
This
for
doesn't
school
fix the
board.
lowest bottom. This doesn't fix the Board of Education. This doesn't fix that. Because
Right.
honestly, in here, there is no such thing as the Board of Education.
Right.
The federal government has no say in our federal system, according to this. According to this.
I used to be a staunch objector to term limits, but the more I see of this 40-year corruption of politicians, I am starting to be more for term limits. And the reason is,
Especially for non-elected.
the AOCs have ruined it, but there needs to be set in place on how to teach people coming up, instead of keeping these pocket grabbers grabbing every corporate money they can. If you look down through there, Pfizer has donated almost to every Democrat and Republican. And put
Sponsored
money
by
in their
Pfizer.
pockets, which
I
there
know,
shouldn't be
yeah.
illegal. So,
Well, our state legislators as well, our students aren't being taught civics, our students aren't being taught
They're
government.
not.
We've allowed it to happen, and people are
So we
running
got
for
200
the
years.
board. Yeah, there's 200 years.
like you
to
said,
fix.
and it's gonna take 10 or 15 or
It's
20
gonna
years to
take
fix all
decades to
this.
fix it.
It's not gonna just happen overnight.
But this can't fix the Board of Education, it can't fix
No.
the
Local
Department of
involvement.
Education,
But-
Department of Transportation.
We
It
don't have to
can't
fix it.
fix any of that.
But it's
In
an
order to
example,
keep-
it's
in
an
order to
example
keep-
of what's been, it's an
But
example of what's trickled down to such a level that it's almost like rough shit creek. I mean, really.
Well,
it's-
but
No,
we're not.
We're not.
We have to start.
We have to directly fix those things, but indirectly.
Indirectly, yeah.
That's why we vote them out.
We
There's
have to
3
start
positions
somewhere.
open this.
You stop and think about it though, you elect the committee, you go to a meeting, where they meet, whatever, they decide on the changes that they're gonna do. Where do they send it back to?
Congress.
The ones that send them up there. Doesn't matter what they do, they gonna vote for it. So it's a scary situation, that's what I'm saying.
But I think you have to get involved. I mean, I probably think that, you know, I've been involved for a while, but when the school board appointed somebody that was a photographer of naked women, and that was who they were putting on our school board, and Lindsay and the education, by the time that was Monday night, our meeting was the next day, and by 1:38, that guy was gone. We're doing it, people, we're doing it. You're just electing more people.
And it
Yes,
wasn't
I know
for 5
this
people,
person,
it was 100.
one person in Kentucky is gonna think the way I do, or is willing to work as hard for what they want as I'm doing. So I think your ideas, I mean, it sounds great on paper, but so did us voting for senators a million years ago and all the things we're doing now. We've got to do it grassroots.
Yes.
We've got to tell them.
We do
we've
that.
had enough.
And I will tell you that in Kentucky right now, we have over 40,000 petition signers, which equates to 10 times that because conservatives don't like it. We have over 5 million petition signers nationwide. This isn't like, oh, this is an off chance, right? Mark Meckler is president of the company. Mark Levin is an advisor. We have Randy Barton, he's an advisor. We had Coburn, Senator Coburn advisor.
Are we
So-
amending voting systems in Kentucky?
We don't, I can't control it. This doesn't have anything to do with the elections.
What did you say they
We
wanted?
have to fix the
We
election.
were the first ones that, the 2018 election was the one that pinged it for 2021, our gubernatorial election.
Issues that they were talking about, that's a different, I think we're looking at it from 2 different angles. What they're talking about is the ground game.
Yes.
The ground game is where we're winning, is we're coming out, okay, and we're recruiting more. All right, and we're talking about term limits. Now, term limits are a little bit scary, because if you do it just for government officials or elected officials, then you've got the administrative state that takes over. So if you don't do it for the administrative state, it's worse to do it just for the elected officials and not do it for the administrative state. So you have to have that as well.
And you have to look at it,
You have to have a pipeline to get people in there.
Yeah.
exactly.
And can I just add one more thing, not the one.
She's telling me.
The thing is, institutions like the GOP and RPK, we can be our own worst enemy, because we pick and choose silently in the background some favored primary candidate. So if somebody who is super fabulous but not a candidate comes along, sorry, you're not gonna support, you're supporting Joe Blow because Joe Blow is our guy, right? He's got our connection.
You have to get
So we
beyond
are our
the nice
own worst
guy.
enemy.
He's my neighbor. I've known him my whole life.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
can he do the job? It doesn't matter, I'm gonna go by that. Does it matter what letter they have in the state behind their name? More than 50% of the Democrats registered in this state are conservative. They're voting on social issues, and that's why they stay Democrat. Yes.
So, one of my thoughts is if you look at the big picture, United States gross domestic product, GDP, is produced in the entire United States. This last year was about $23 trillion, okay? Federal government spent roughly $7 trillion this last year. The states are spending at least another $3 or $4 trillion on top of that. So and where do they spend it? Well, they spend some fire, but there's armies of federal and state workers. The teachers are just some of them. You've seen the power of the teachers. The government employees, the contractors for the government, the 10 to 11 trillion, half of our production in the United States is being spent by this bureaucracy. It's just, and when I think about it, okay, if somebody dropped a bomb on Washington, D.C. right now, blew the whole thing up, and just they all fell off into the ocean, would my life change tomorrow? I mean, I really don't need them. I don't need any of them. Okay, we need the military.
We don't, right.
Yeah,
We need them to do the
we need the military, okay? But all this other bureaucracy, all of the regulations and the rules that they're imposing on us. But it's 50% of the production of all of us. 50%. I mean, you may only pay, you think I pay, 30% taxes, but you have the state taxes, you have your FICA taxes, you have your sales taxes. You don't realize they're taking half of everything that you make.
Yep.
Okay? And it goes to this entire bureaucracy. And we're talking about just a couple of legislators in the state or the federal. That's part of it, but this battle we're fighting is against this massive bureaucracy and their self-interest in continuing what we produce. And that's really what that's why it's such a challenge, is because 50% of what we're doing gets blown away by this bureaucracy of the federal and state government. So, those are my thoughts.
I think it's important for us to understand checks and balances, and trust people to do the right thing. You need to
Trust people to do the right thing, not just to elect them, but you can't really, we're human. We're human. You send a legislator to Congress, and they might be good for the first 12 years, but I guarantee you they're swallowed up in the swamp after that.
When Bill mentions the bureaucracy, I was brought up in industry, in private industry. Unions killed several of the businesses that I had because I would not be unionized. When I made cabinet, I tried to supply them to Louisville School, which is from North Dakota. But the Teachers Federation said no, they would not approve of any cabinets that were not made by union and employees. Now, we thought about that and said, send a union representative up here to our company and let him see how we work. And they said, no, we will send a union executive up there to convert your workers to union. He came. In 3 months, he said, look, I want to leave the union and work with you. But in order for us to make cabinet, we need to be unionized, but in our own manner. We ask our employees if they would join us in this, and they said yes. That executive became one of our workers. We got that contract. We got other contracts around the country because of the work that we did. Not because we were unionized, but because we made cabinet.
Not because the government
Now, during that time, the International Woodworking Society held a convention every year in Louisville. In 1986, it left Louisville to Atlanta. You know why? Because the electricians union sabotaged. Because our employees, our electricians, and the international companies, electricians were not unionized. They sabotaged and cost Louisville that convention. Part of that problem nationally, school teachers, unions, is not a right to work. And I think this is one of the things which is part of what I believe the Republican Party should be doing, is working for right to work. The same manner that they work for the Constitution as it was written originally in 12 pages total.
7,000 words.
Yes. As against the amount of legislation that goes through, which is 1,000,000 times more